Sup, guys? It's Toad back with you for Saturday, the day of the Final Four, baby. It's April 5th. Is that what it is today? We're going to talk Final Four. I got sides in both Final Four games. The stupid college basketball crown is also playing today, which nobody's going to care about. I'm not betting it because it's like impossible to bet, but I will talk about those games. I've got 11 plays. I think I have 2 NHL, 1 NBA, big NHL Saturday, and of course baseball continues, and you know me with this bulk that I'm doing in baseball. I think I have 6 baseball plays, 3 totals, 3 sides, all of them full game, I believe. So I'm just insane. I'm going to lose, man. I mean, I liked my baseball plays yesterday. The one that I won was the one that I tacked on late. We were like, oh, I actually like Cleveland here. That one actually won, the Cleveland Indians, and then the other 2 were losers, with the Red Sox winning against me, even though I bet against my own team. So I lost on the Cardinals. Cardinals put themselves in a 5-0 hole in the first inning, man. So it was, I mean, that was in trouble from the start, even though they actually cut it to a 6-5 deficit middle of the game, and then they wound up losing. Then I did have the what was the other game I lost? Washington Nationals. They can't win for me, man. I got to stop betting the Washington Nationals. I got to avoid them from now on, probably. Those I thought were good spots because we were playing on a rested team against a team that had played the previous day, and neither of those hit. And then I did have the NBA game completely fell apart. Denver looked good early on in that game, and then they just totally fell apart by the end of it. And I did get the win on the hockey game with the Detroit Red Wings with an outright win. So we scooped the pot on that one. They were the more motivated team. Let's get into it, man. I'm hoping to not take that long here. Oh, I got to zoom in, don't I? Yeah, let's zoom in on all this stuff. We got college basketball going on, man. Why don't I talk about the crown first this time? Because I usually talk about the actual tournament first because it's listed first on the board, but nobody cares about the crown, which is still in Las Vegas, but now we're moving to the T-Mobile Arena. And I'm going to say right off the bat, in both of these tournaments, the crown and in the Final Four here, the Final Four being played at the Alamo Dome, which is a football stadium, so that's even more crazy than playing in a hockey arena, because at least playing in the hockey arena here at T-Mobile, where the Vegas Knights play, at least the sight lines won't be as crazy as they are in a football stadium, because in a football stadium, they're literally like putting the basketball court in the middle of a stadium, so it's this big cavernous stadium, so it can really affect the sight lines early and the three-point shooting early. So when these teams aren't familiar with the sight lines, and especially if they're a three-point shooting team, and they have to get used to that new venue, a lot of times you want to look towards unders early in the game, like in the first halves. And I would say that applies to all of these games because these offenses are getting used to playing at this arena that they're not used to, especially in the Final Four, though, in the football stadium, which is why, at least in the Houston-Duke game, we have a really low total, and I'm not even sure it's low enough, but I will talk about that when I get to it. Nebraska and Boise State is this afternoon. So these games, the way that this is going to be done is the crown games are going to be done, I believe, basically before the Final Four starts. I don't know if they're all on the same channel or not. They're probably not, but they kind of get their own isolated spots. Nebraska's up against Boise. Boise up from 1.5 to 2.5 with juice, 72% of tickets. 83% of the cash coming in on Boise. So the money is coming in on Boise. The one thing I will say, so obviously both of these teams won to advance. Boise beat Butler. What I will say is that Boise shot kind of out of their minds in this game, man. So I don't know if they're going to really be able to replicate that. A 60.3% field goal percentage and 45.8% from 3. Boise's not a particularly good shooting team, so that kind of worries me that they might regress a little bit if you like the Boise side, even though yes, the money is coming in on Boise. Nebraska beat Georgetown, but that was less of a misleading result, I think. I don't think Georgetown is very good. So I would hesitate to actually want to lean to the Boise side in that one, even though that is where the money is coming in. Central Florida and Villanova. Villanova up from 2 to 3.5. I do actually agree with this move on Villanova. 69% of tickets, 86% of cash coming in at Villanova. Central Florida, I think they're on borrowed time at this point, man. I mean, they just pulled off an upset over Cincinnati, which I actually think I said I liked Central Florida in that one, right? Because they, I think they barely won as a favorite against Oregon State. So I've been right on every one of these UCF games in this tournament, even though I haven't bet any of them. I liked Oregon State because they're more familiar with playing in Vegas. They covered. Then I liked UCF to kind of turn it back around and cover against Cincinnati. I didn't really expect them to win outright, but after almost losing as a favorite and getting their bearings, I thought they would have a better performance. They did. They won outright, and now I think the pendulum shifts back again. I like Villanova in this game. Villanova is the better of the two teams. Villanova actually coming off kind of a scare where they were actually losing to USC, and Villanova was the favorite in that game. They were losing to USC for like a majority of that game, I'm pretty sure. So Villanova actually had to make the comeback, which you might argue they're a little bit tired coming off of that game, but I think that they're kind of coming off of a scare, and UCF's win looked way more impressive. So I think people are going to tend to maybe even want to look to kind of take the points with Central Florida here. I would not agree with that. I like Villanova, even though you're laying points with a slow-paced Villanova team. I think Villanova will be able to control the pace. I think that's actually a good thing for them. They're not really laying that many points, and they are still an efficient offense. Villanova actually doesn't play defense that well. So I like Villanova there. Charles, what's up, man? Let's go to the thanks for hanging out, man. Let's go to the actual games here, the real games. And I'm going to have a play on both games, man. I'm going to go right where I was when I made my bracket. I'm not changing my thoughts from when I created my bracket, man. Let's just say that. I have Auburn and Houston in the final in my bracket. I'm just going to play both teams here, even though I'm going to be kind of messed up in my head here because I am in a survivor pool, and I have Auburn and Duke left in my survivor pool. So I have to use one of them in this round, hope that both of those teams win for my survivor pool, and then I have to take the other of the two teams to win the championship. So I have to get 3 results right, essentially, if that makes sense. So I still don't know if I should take Auburn today or Duke today and save the other team. But either way, I need both of them to win here. So I would like to win those survivor pools, man. There's a lot of money at stake there. I put not a huge amount into those pools, and there's a big payout. So I could hedge, but I'm not even doing that, man. I mean, sometimes I do hedge to guarantee myself money. So like I could hedge by betting Florida and Houston, and I am actually betting Houston to cover. So I do like that. I just like that play in general. But for me, I'm just betting what I think are the right sides here. So I'm on Auburn plus the points here. Florida sitting at a 2.5-point favorite. Yes, they have the cash on them right now. 68% of tickets, 59% of tickets, 68% of the cash. But I think Florida's been a public side for the entire tournament, man. And people are not jumping off of them at this point. I think Florida has looked more impressive to people in the tournament. I think the fact that they beat UConn, even though that was a close game, people are going to give Florida a lot of credit for that. Oh, they beat the returning champs. That's a good win. I think they're going to give them credit for beating Texas Tech as well. Whereas Auburn, I think Auburn still is kind of just flying under the radar. I mean, yeah, they beat Michigan State, but I think they owned Michigan State, man. So Auburn, I mean, that game was, the final score was closer than that game was. Auburn really had that game completely in hand the whole time, and that was their most difficult opponent so far. So yes, Florida is more battle-tested, so I do worry about that. That Florida has played the games that went right down to the wire, and they were able to win both of those games and come back in doing so against UConn and Texas Tech. But to me, I just think Florida's on borrowed time, man, because as I pointed out when I did my bracket show, I think Florida, they don't meet the historical criteria of a champion, at least. Maybe they could get to the championship game. I don't think they're going to win it. So I'm going to expect them to actually get bounced here, though, to be honest. So Florida, one of the key things about Florida that makes them, I think, not a championship team is the fact that they play at way too fast a pace. They're the fastest paced team left by far out of the 4 of these. Auburn is second, and then the other 2 teams, Duke, Houston, both play really slow. Auburn is kind of mid-tempo. Florida plays really fast, and that just historically, teams that play at that fast a tempo tend to run out of gas by the end of it. And it also kind of means they're a shooting team, although Auburn does take a lot of threes as well. Both these teams take a lot of threes, and I think the sight lines having to play in the Alamo Dome might hurt both teams as well. So I do like the under in this game as well, but the total has gone all the way down from 164 to 159.5 and going even lower than that. Juice to the under. 57% of tickets on the over. 58% of cash on the under. I like the under, but I would probably play first half under if I was going to do it. Like I said, because these teams, they're both 3-point shooting teams, and they both have to get used to playing in this stadium. And if you get used to the sight line, so the shooting might be off early on, and if you expect the teams to play a close game, this goes for both of these games. You're going to have to worry about fouls by the end of it, even though Auburn is a bad free throw shooting team, which is the one thing that worries me, is that out of these 4 teams, Auburn is the worst free throw shooting team, so that does worry me. But as far as the total is concerned, you got to worry about free throws in a close game at the end, pushing that thing over. So I do think first half unders would be the way to look here. But again, back to Auburn. I like Auburn in this game. Florida, again, I just think they're on borrowed time, man, because they're too fast-paced a team, and historically, fast-paced teams don't win at all. I forget what the actual numbers are on that, but then also the preseason rankings are a historical indicator as well, and teams that are ranked even lower than 10 in the preseason rankings, basically the only team that's won a championship from outside of those preseason rankings has been UConn, and UConn has done it 3 times in the last couple of decades, but no other team has even done it. And Florida was 21st in the preseason poll. So that's another mark against Florida winning the entire thing. And just looking at this game, I mean, the other thing I was going to say about the historical criteria is that the last, almost all of the most recent champions in the last couple decades, I think all but 2 or 3 of them have covered every game in the tournament or all but one game in the tournament. And Florida has already failed to cover 3 times in this tournament. They're 1-3 against the spread. So normally you might say, well, if a team's 1-3 against the spread, then you're going to be getting value on that team. I'm going to have a nice segue here talking about this. But I don't think you're getting value on Florida here, man. Florida's been a public team all along, like I said. So even though they've failed to cover the spread 3 out of the 4 games, one of them was that opening game against Norfolk State or whatever, and they still won by a large margin. Nobody cares about who covered the spread in that game, really, unless they actually had money on it. Other than that, I just think people are watching Florida and thinking Florida's beating good teams. Florida's the better team here. So I don't think that you're actually getting value just because Florida has not covered the spread 3 out of their 4 games. And Auburn, I believe, has only failed to cover 1 spread in the tournament at this point now. They covered against Michigan State, I believe. Because that line wasn't that high, I think, right? I think they just got in on that number there. They covered for me in the previous 2 games. I think I had them against Creighton and against Michigan, and they covered both of those. So the only game Auburn didn't cover was the first round game where they were just not even really showing up in the first half of that game, and they still won by 20, but didn't cover. So Florida doesn't meet the historical criteria of covering the spread as far as a champion is concerned, and I still think you're getting value with Auburn. Remember, the public is also going to look at the fact that Florida won at Auburn, and they were winning that game by 21 points at one point, and they wound up winning by 9. So the public is going to say, well, Florida beat Auburn at Auburn, so obviously they're going to win when it's basically just a pick the winner price. They're obviously going to beat Auburn on a neutral, right? Well, again, I don't really think so. I don't think it works that way, and I think the line has just moved way too much because you remember that game was in, I think, February, and Auburn was an 11-point home favorite. So even if you argue that, well, that line was too high and Florida's better than we thought they were, then Auburn's not as good as we thought they were. Although I don't even know if that's true because Auburn was dominating, man. They were the number 1 team almost all year until they lost 3 of their last 4 games. And remember, one of those games was a game I was on with Texas A&M where Auburn had nothing to play for at that point. Auburn had already wrapped up the 1 seed. And Auburn had Alabama up next, and they were coming off a big game, the prior game against, I forget who it was against, but it was, whatever it was a sandwich spot. So that wasn't a good spot. So Auburn lost, they lost to a couple of good teams. They lost to Tennessee in the tournament, and then I forget who their other loss was, but they were all to good SEC teams. And they lost to Florida, of course. So, I'm not going to knock Auburn that much for those losses. And I think the fact that Auburn exited the SEC tournament early, it might not matter now anymore, but I think that's giving us maybe a little bit extra value on Auburn as well because people are going to want Florida because they've looked better down the stretch, looked better in the SEC tournament, and they won the SEC tournament. But again, I think winning your entire conference tournament, especially in a gauntlet like the SEC, I think that tires you out, even though, sure, at this point they've had a week off, so it doesn't really matter. And the one other thing that worries me is that Florida has done a lot better in the games where they've had time to prepare. Like the two bad games that they had in the tournament against UConn and Texas Tech were on those quick turnaround times. So, yeah, Florida has done better in a spot like this when they've had extra time to prepare. But I still think I actually think this is where it comes to an end for Florida. I do think Auburn will get this. And remember, as I was about to say, I'm kind of all over the place. I apologize. Auburn was an 11-point favorite against Florida in that game, man. So, again, as I was about to say, even if you argue that line was too high and Auburn is not that much better than Florida, how could you possibly adjust that line this much in that short a period of time in a matter of like a month or a little bit over a month? Basically, you're telling me that Auburn being 11 at home, they probably get a lot of home court advantage. So, okay, let's say they should be about a 6-point favorite on a neutral then. So even if you say that line's a little bit too high, that still means Auburn should be a favorite of probably a few points on a neutral. And we're looking at Florida being the 2.5-point favorite here. So again, I think the line value is on Auburn. I think this is recency bias. I think the line is over adjusted based on what these teams have done most recently. So I do think there's value on the Auburn side. And I think you're getting more experience with Auburn here. I mean, they have a core group of players who have played together for multiple years now. They're a pretty senior-laden team. They have the more experienced coach in environments like this. So I actually give Pearl the coaching edge over Golden, even though Golden is good. Auburn has been to some of these stages before, man, and might have an extra chip on their shoulder because they lost in the first round of the tournament last year. So they might even be a little bit more angry because of that, on top of the fact that they might be a little extra angry because Florida went into their place and beat them. So all of that has me lining up. I mean, I did have those couple of caveats in there, but I like Auburn. I think the line value is there, so I'm going to be on Auburn in that game. Who's taking the Final Four? That is an interesting question. I have Auburn winning my bracket. Auburn does not have the best odds to win it right now. I have Auburn over Houston in my bracket because I was trying to differentiate it. I thought when it came down to this Final Four, I thought these games are going to be close matchups. Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not Duke either. I also hate Duke. Duke has the best odds to do it right now. They're basically like a coin flip to win the whole thing, but everybody's going to be picking Duke, so I think maybe they won't do it. But, of course, if Duke doesn't do it, that would mean I would have to pick Duke in my survivor pool here and then hope that Auburn gets to the final and hope that the final matchup is actually exactly what I hope that the final matchup isn't exactly what I have, but I'd have to hope that it's Auburn over Duke in the final, actually, I guess is what I would have to hope for. So maybe that is what I'll set up my survivor pool like. I don't even know, man. Florida, I mean, they got a mix, but I think they have less experience. They have fewer upperclassmen, I believe, than Auburn does, but also they haven't had that like group of guys playing together as much as Auburn has. But Florida, I mean, both teams have a couple of big men in there. Both teams have good guard play. Florida probably wins the guard play aspect of it by a bit. And yeah, I mean, as far as experience, though, yeah, I think Auburn has the guys. What you want to look for is the guys that have played with each other as like a core group for a longer period of time, and that edge goes to Auburn, I believe, even though Florida has some super talented players like Clayton Jr. there. I mean, Auburn still has Broome. And the other thing I forgot even to mention, I think Auburn's getting docked a little bit more in this line because Broome got banged up against Michigan State. He fell and hurt his elbow. I think he had I don't know if it was just a contusion or what, but he came back into the game. He didn't look like he was 100%. And when he first went down, it seemed like he told his players that he didn't think he was going to come back, but he did. And, I mean, he hit like a key 3 in the game. I don't think he was 100%, but at least they have a week off now. I know he didn't practice on Monday, but I assume he did start to practice. So I expect Broome to be in the game, obviously. But I think we might be getting maybe even more extra line value on Auburn because people think Broome, their best player, is injured. And he may not be at 100%, but I think that might give us some extra line value on Auburn as well. I do expect him to be out there and hopefully at least like 75%. Whatever that means. It's kind of subjective. Anna, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Curtis, Charles, thanks, guys. Will, thank you, sir. Yeah, that's right. Let's go to the other game here, which is Houston and Duke. I'm taking Houston plus the points here, man. I think this line is way too high, to be honest. I think we're paying a big-time tax on Duke. Duke up from 4.5 to 5. I mean, everybody is in love with Duke right now, man. They have the best player in the country, Cooper Flagg. Basically, nobody could even name a player on Houston. And that's what I like coming in on an underdog like this, man. Houston is an extremely good team. They were a legit title contender, and I think this game could probably go either way here. I think, again, this line is too high, and I think you're paying a tax just because it is Duke. I mean, Duke has all that name recognition. They have the best player in the country, and they've just been wrecking everybody so far. Duke, 64% of tickets, 68% of the cash coming in on them. I mentioned I like the under in this game. I would probably play it first half, though. 136.5 actually seems high to me for a full game total. It's just that if the game's going to be close, you do have to worry about free throw shooting, and both of these teams can actually hit free throws. They both shoot pretty well. 67% of tickets, 72% of the cash on the over. Again, I like the under. Probably first half under would make more sense because, again, the sight lines are going to mess with you a little bit. And I actually think the sight lines might mess with Duke a little bit more. I think Duke does take more threes than Houston does, although both teams mostly, I think, kind of play on the inside, so the sight lines might affect these teams a little bit less, but both teams play a slow pace, especially Houston, and both teams have really good defenses. These are the top two defenses left, man. I mean, these are both like top 4 defenses in the country. Florida's actually not really that far behind them, and Auburn's not really that far behind either. But all 4 of these teams that are left, all of them in the KenPom rankings, I think are both top 10 in offense and defense. So the top 4 teams in the country have all made it to the Final Four here, man. And Houston and Duke, Houston hits a high percentage of their threes, but they don't take that many threes. So that could help them early on with these bad sight lines as well, because they really like to play inside. But as far as the total, again, both teams play slow, especially Houston. I think Duke will oblige and get into a slow-paced game with them. And even though both teams are pretty efficient offensively, which is the difference with Houston this year, by the way, is that these other Houston teams, the Houston teams of the past that keep losing in the tournament, it's because they have like a bad offensive game at some point. This year, I'm not sure that that's going to happen, or maybe it already did happen against Purdue, because Houston actually had their best offensive efficiency metric this year that they've had in the Kelvin Sampson era. Usually they're a great defense, great slowdown team, which they are again this year, but this year they're actually shooting better than in those other years, and they can actually hit threes better than in those other years as well. So Houston, very well-rounded. But again, Houston might be less affected by the sight lines early. I forget what else I was going to say, but because both teams like to play slow, the under does make sense. Even though the offenses are good, I was going to say both defenses are like top 4 in the country. So that is what you want to look for when you do want to look for a lower scoring game. However, because I think it's going to be a low scoring game and a defensive battle, that also means that all these points are worth more, man. So I think it makes sense to take the points when you're getting 5 points in what I think is a close matchup between 2 really good defensive teams, and also they are good offensive teams again. This is a very good matchup, man. Like, I think these are probably the top 2 teams in the country, to be honest, in this one, even though Auburn was all year. They're not being lined as such anymore. Even though I do think Auburn does have a chance to win the whole thing still. I think if they return to what they were throughout the season, I mean, they had one of the most ridiculous quad 1 records this year, Auburn did. They dominated in like one of the toughest conferences in history, a very good SEC this year, and Auburn had like 16 conference wins or something, which is almost unheard of. So Auburn, they were the best team like throughout almost the entire year. So they certainly have the potential to just do that again in these last 2 games. And again, I think Houston's really good. Duke is really good as well. I actually think Florida, in my opinion, is the least of these remaining 4 teams. But I like I like Houston plus the points for all these reasons here. And also, Duke has not been challenged yet in this tournament, man. Duke has just been basically blowing out teams, so they have not played a close game. Houston has played 2 close games against Gonzaga and against Purdue, where Houston had to win at the buzzer against Purdue. That was a tough game where both teams play a slowdown style, and Houston wound up getting into kind of a rock fight in that game. So I like the fact that Houston is more battle-tested here, and they escaped. I think Duke has had a bit of an easier path here. Gonzaga is just a ridiculous opponent to have to face in an 8-1 matchup. Gonzaga was a top 10 team in the country, according to Ken Palm's analytics, and Gonzaga was the 8th seed. Houston actually still dominated that game, but Gonzaga came back and almost won the game. But that also makes me like Houston because, again, the game was close to the wire, and Houston was able to get that win. So, again, Houston is battle-tested. Duke has not had any games that were even nearly that close. So I like all of that for Houston as well. Houston, speaking of close games, Houston has not lost a game by more than 5 all year. They lost by 5, and the team that beat them by 5 was Auburn, I'm pretty sure. And that was the only game that Houston lost in regulation. That was a weird situation where Auburn had a team fight on their flight or something, had to turn around, and then Auburn still somehow won the game, I think. I don't know what that was. That was a little bit weird, but Houston's only lost by this margin all year, and their only regulation loss was to Auburn. All 3 of their other losses were in overtime. So Houston has almost been unbeatable this year, and they have not been beatable by a margin like this. So that makes me like the points with Houston as well. And because Houston did play Gonzaga, Gonzaga does play a little bit faster, and Duke can possibly try to speed this game up because they know that Houston doesn't want to speed the game up, which if Duke tries to do that, that would make me worry about the under a little bit in this game. But if Duke tries to do that, again, Houston, they face Gonzaga, who is a fast team, and Gonzaga's a good offense. So you talk about, well, Houston hasn't faced, any offense as good as Duke. Maybe not, but Gonzaga is a good offense, and actually Purdue is a very efficient offense as well. So Houston has faced a couple of pretty good offenses, like top 20 or so offensive efficiency teams. So it's not like they haven't faced any good offenses. So that makes me like Houston as well. And Duke, they haven't faced any team that's a slowdown team like Houston that also plays defense. The only slowdown team Duke has played really throughout the tournament was Baylor, and Baylor had really bad defensive metrics this year. Baylor could score, and they play slow, but they were kind of like a UConn or like Villanova. That was kind of Baylor's metric or analytical profile this year. Kind of weird, a slowdown team that isn't good defensively but could shoot well, but that's what Baylor was. So Duke has not faced a team like Houston that not only slows you down but plays excellent defense. I mean, how did Duke get here? They beat Arizona, who, even though Arizona's pretty good defensively, Arizona's a fast-paced team. And then Duke beat Alabama, and Alabama's also a fast-paced team. And people are going to look at that and think, well, Duke, their defense totally shut down Alabama. And that is true. Alabama's a very good offensive team. Duke held them to 65 points, which I think is going to, again, make Duke overvalued here because Duke blew out Alabama. They look so good against Alabama, who everybody knows is good. The public likes Alabama. They're a high-scoring team. Duke was able to completely shut them down, yeah. But again, Alabama is a very fast-paced team, one of the fastest in the entire country. So Duke is going to have to go from that to facing like one of the slowest in the entire country. And I just don't think that bodes well. After 2 straight games against fast-paced teams, now they have to face a slow-down defensive team. Duke has not faced anything like that in this tournament. So give me Houston plus the points in that game for all those reasons. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it would be cool to see Auburn get their first championship. And by the way, if you want a little bit of an added bonus for Houston, these games are in San Antonio, so it's not that far from Houston. So Duke, I mean, their fan base does travel. They have a huge fan base, but Houston probably is going to show up as far as their fan base is concerned, as they are playing in their home state of Texas. All right. Let's go to, and as far as, I mean, if you're going to ask me who's going to win the whole thing, I mean, Duke still has the best odds to do it, even though I might not think that they're going to do it. They still do have the best odds to do it, so it's really difficult to say who is going to win the whole thing right now, man. I mean, I think any one of these teams could do it. I think Florida's the least likely, to be honest, based on how they profile versus the historical teams that have won the whole thing. So I think it's going to be either Houston, Duke, or Auburn is going to be the champion, but I don't know which one of them it's going to be. And the winner of Houston-Duke, if that's like a big slugfest like that, could be at a bit of a disadvantage coming off of that, although I don't know, because Florida and Auburn is probably going to be a game where there's a little bit more running, and whoever wins these games has to turn around and play again in 2 days. So I don't know. We'll see. Both teams are going to be coming off big games. Let's go to the NHL. We got Rangers and Devils. I want to try to get this video done, man. Oh, my God. The Devils, I would say that both teams actually have a lot to play for right here because the Devils have been sliding since they lost Jack Hughes. They've started to play better to some degree again, but the Devils, they do not have a stranglehold on their playoff position anymore. So the Devils are in danger of falling into a wild card spot and or possibly out completely. Although it's kind of unlikely that'll happen. The Rangers are still fighting for a wild card spot. So both teams actually have something to play for here in this game. Rangers are a little bit more desperate right now. They just won at home against Minnesota. Now they're going out to New Jersey. I don't think either team played yesterday, so there's no back-to-back situation or anything like that. Both teams actually just beat Minnesota and are staying in the area. I think the Devils have a little bit extra time off. The Devils have had more rest, which I think is why the line is moving up on them from minus 120 to minus 126. 83% of the cash on them, 60% of tickets on the Rangers. The public likes the Rangers, probably because they are in desperation mode, although I don't know if you really want to go against a desperate underdog like the Rangers are. And the fact that New Jersey had that extra time off, that could hurt their winning momentum maybe a little bit, so I'm going to stay away from that. Florida, not laying a huge price at Ottawa, up from minus 120 to minus 131. So it looks like some money is coming on Florida. Maybe it's more of a numbers thing, but Ottawa needs this game a little bit more, even though I think they're kind of secure in their playoff spot now. They did just beat Tampa, which is a big win for them. I mean, Ottawa's up to 40 wins now, so it's pretty likely Ottawa is going to be in the playoffs at this point. Florida's lost 3 games in a row, so you might see Florida actually come to play in this one. And they're, even though it's a third straight road game, all the games are up in these Eastern Canadian provinces in Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. So you might see Florida actually show up in this game as well. But I do think Ottawa maybe needs the game a little bit more. Florida is still, I guess, kind of jockeying for positioning, but they're more secure in their playoff spot than Ottawa is, although it seems like both teams will be in the playoffs at this point. All right, what else? Edmonton and LA Kings. I mean, this line is kind of telling you what the odds makers think of Edmonton. And they don't think that much of Edmonton, man. If Edmonton is that big of an underdog at the LA Kings, the odds makers are kind of telling you that Edmonton's a little bit overrated. I kind of agree. I don't think their goaltending is that good. In this particular game, though, I don't know, because Edmonton is already out on the Pacific Coast. They just barely got by San Jose, and now they're going to LA. So I don't know if it's really the worst spot for Edmonton here. They might refocus after that bad game against San Jose, whereas LA actually had to go to Utah, and I lost on that game because I thought I thought LA was in a bad spot, having to go into elevation. And they were coming off beating Winnipeg, and they had Edmonton up next. It was a weird elevation trip against a Utah team that's trying to stay alive, and it was sandwiched in there. I think Utah should have won that game for me, man. The game wasn't, I mean, it was a fairly close game. I'm kind of frustrated that I lost that bet. I thought it was a great spot to come in and play Utah there, but now LA is coming down out of elevation, so I'm not quite sure that I love LA in this game. I mean, I don't love it as a city, obviously. It looks like the money has come in maybe a little bit on LA, 98% of the cash, 90% of the tickets. I don't even know if these numbers are accurate, man. I mean, the NHL market, there's not like a huge amount of public influx here, especially when it's during the Final Four. Public is not going to be looking at hockey that much here, so most of the market is basically like the professionals. Pretty much the professionals are playing against the books, although there is some public effect here. LA down from minus 170 to minus 166. That game is also not one of my plays. I'm just going through all these games. My Boston Bruins are dead. What else can you say? They're a huge underdog at home against Carolina. Carolina just lost last night. They are on a back-to-back, though, having to go from Detroit to Boston. So maybe because they're on a back-to-back and that kind of broke their momentum. And Carolina, I mean, they know they're going to be in the playoffs at this point. If the Bruins have any pride, maybe they'll show up for a game against one of the top teams in the conference at home, although I don't know if they have any pride. So I don't know. I mean, I'm staying away from that, obviously, but I don't like the spot for Carolina particularly. The line is dropped on them from minus 248 to minus 234. 75% of tickets, 82% of the cash. I mean, yeah, I mean, do what you will with this game, which I'm going to stay away. I mean, the Bruins haven't won a game in like a month at this point. They're literally in last place in the conference. Now they have just completely given up. But maybe if they show up for one game, maybe it'll be this game against Carolina. Let's see. Let's go to one of my plays here. Houston by Dean Martin. I'll have to look that up, man. I like the other Rat Pack guys. I don't know if I know that particular song, though. My voice isn't exactly good for crooning stuff, but crooner stuff. Yeah, Boston has way too much pride most of the year, really. Although, actually, it's kind of a weird mix because Boston does have a lot of still, like, the hardcore, like, you know, like, Irish dudes, you know what I mean? There's still a lot of blue-collar, like, workforce guys in Boston, like, at the ships, like, the shipyards and stuff. And a lot of those guys want nothing to do with that shit. So it's a weird mix. That's the old Irish racist element of Boston that still is around. And more, it's like the more like kind of metro areas of Boston, like the more white liberal areas are the ones that are more into the pride bullshit. Beating up Asian guys, yes, that is Mark Wahlberg's favorite pastime, I believe. Mark Wahlberg, yeah, one of the Irish hooligans from Southie. That is true. Or from Dorchester, excuse me, not Southie. I'm not gonna be able to live in Boston anymore. Dorchester is where he's from. Dorchester kid. He's not actually from Southie. Well, let's say there isn't that much of a difference between the two. Although Southie, like the actual Southie area, is being all gentrified and shit. Dorchester is not, but Dorchester now has quite the influx of non-white people, let's say, even though the Irish guys are still there as well. All right. First play up that I have in the NHL. I'm not going to talk about every one of these games. I'm going to do what I did last night. I'm going to go half puck line, plus 1.5 goals, minus 145, and half on the money line at plus 170. Playing on the Columbus BJs again, the Blue Jackets, who killed me in their previous game. They lost 7-3, but I think maybe we're going to get a little bit extra value on Columbus for that reason. I don't like the spot that Toronto is in here, man. Yes, obviously Toronto's the better team, but look what Toronto's coming off of, man. They returned from the Pacific Coast, didn't fall into that return home distraction spot that I always talk about, where when you return home, a lot of times you have to get back to home life, you're distracted. They were not, as they had Florida coming into their place, a good team. They beat Florida. Now they have a couple of days off, which might help them settle into home life again, even though they did have a couple of days off before that as well. They got to face Columbus, who's fighting for their lives right now. And who does Toronto have up next? Oh, yeah, they got Florida again. So they're in a Florida sandwich here. A nice Cubano sandwich here that Toronto is in here. And they got to face a desperate Columbus team here. And Toronto is not desperate because they're already going to be in the playoffs. They have a good record. Maybe debatably they're fighting for seeding, whatever. But Columbus, they need this game way more. Columbus is coming off a pretty embarrassing result, really, losing 7-3, which, again, I was on Columbus in that game. And that game was a close game fairly late in the game. I think it was tied like midway through the second period, so it wasn't quite as much of a blowout as it looks like. Statistically, it was a very close game. Columbus, I mean, their goaltending really is not good. So, I mean, a lot of their games are going over as well because they can score and they can't defend. But I think they're going to be in the more desperate mood here, man. And coming off that ugly loss at home, one of the best things for us to just forget about it, go out on the road, focus on a game against a good team, show up, play a good game. I think Columbus is going to be the team that has more focus here, and you're giving me a pretty heavy underdog price. I'm going to take Columbus there. Columbus is like, I don't know, they're several points out of the wild card spot right now, so they need this game, man, to stay alive. Toronto certainly does not, and Toronto's in that Florida sandwich. So give me Columbus. Toronto's down from minus 205 to minus 191, so some money is, I think, driven that line down a bit, even though it does look like 95% of the cash on Toronto, 76% of the tickets on Toronto. I'm not going to read that much into those percentages. Like I said, I'm just going to look at the situation. Toronto's probably going to be a public team, really, if anything, although not that the public wants to come in and lay like a minus 200 money line, but we will see. Montreal is still fighting for a playoff spot as well. They're doing pretty well right now, actually. Are they in the wild card spot right now? Let me see. Where are they at? Yeah, they are. Montreal's in the number 2 wild card spot right now, but they got to fight to hang on. Columbus is actually only 4 points out, so that's even better for me. Columbus can kind of sniff that a wild card spot there, man. They're only 4 points out, so I like that even better for Columbus's motivation there. And yeah, Montreal, I was just looking. Yeah, Montreal is in the other wild card spot right now, but they need to fight to hold on to it. Philadelphia is a dead team right now, even though they've been playing hard. They won 3 games in a row. But this game, I think it would be Montreal or pass. I mean, they just need the game more. But the line, even though it's gone up from -150 to -156, 91% of tickets, only 86% of the cash. So Montreal is public. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you're paying a little bit of a tax for a team that needs to win like Montreal does. So, I don't know. Colorado St. Louis is an interesting one. Colorado coming off beating me, of course, against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Colorado, I believe, is more. I mean, both of these teams are pretty secure in their playoff spots now, man. St. Louis could actually move out of the wild card spots now, as crazy as that sounds. So both teams are going to make the playoffs. I think both teams might show up for this game, though, because it is a big game between two playoff teams at this point. And Colorado, by the way, just lost to St. Louis on March 29th at home, so it's a little bit of quick road revenge for Colorado. So maybe this is where St. Louis's win streak comes to an end, even though St. Louis is probably trying to get out of the wild card spots at this point. They're in one of the wild card spots. They've won, whatever it is, 1 million games in a row with former Bruin coach here, Montgomery there. Unfortunately, the Bruins don't have him anymore. I thought it was a good move to get rid of him because obviously they need some sort of shakeup there. But the Bruins have lost 10 games in a row. I think St. Louis has won 11 in a row, which is ridiculous, including that game against Colorado. A lot of these games are against not very good teams, though, so I think maybe this run is a little bit misleading. I mean, a couple of these teams are good. Colorado was the best team they beat in this entire run, though, and now they're coming off 2 overtime games, and they got to face Colorado again here. And St. Louis, they're going to make the playoffs at this point, so they don't have to be as worried about this. So I actually think maybe Colorado's the right side there. I think maybe that run by St. Louis is a little bit of a mirage. Colorado's up from -130 to -133. 76% of tickets, 98% of cash. Looks like some money's coming in on Colorado. I actually agree with it. But my other play, dude, what am I doing? I'm playing the same two teams that let me down the other night and both lost on me, the Blue Jackets and the Hockey Club. I'm going right back to the well, and I'm doing it again. I'm going to play on the Utah Hockey Club again, +120, and I'm fading Winnipeg this time. But look at what's going on with the line. Winnipeg's down from -135 to -118. So that line is kind of dropping, and I think the public is going to look at this and think, wow, this is basically just like a pick-the-winner price here. Looks really cheap to take Winnipeg, who has one of the best records in hockey. But I'm not going to buy it. I'm looking at the spot here. I think it's a bad spot for Winnipeg and a better spot for Utah, and that's what I'm going with. Winnipeg is public with 81% of the 81% of tickets, only 79% of the cash, I think is what it said there. Winnipeg, they're coming off shutting out the Vegas Knights, dude. That's a huge win for Winnipeg. Big win against a good playoff team there. And now they have to face a third straight road game. They have to go into elevation to face Utah. And then after that, they're coming back home to face St. Louis and then Dallas. St. Louis, the hottest team in hockey right now, and Dallas, one of the top teams in hockey. So I think this is a sandwich spot. This is surrounded by much better teams. Utah on the verge of getting eliminated, but you're getting them as a home underdog here. I think they're going to they're in a good spot here to focus, man. They're just staying at home. They lost that game to the LA Kings. Again, I thought Utah was in a good spot there. That game was a lot better than what that final score looked like. I mean, look at the shot differential in this game. The game was a tied game into the third period, I'm pretty sure, wasn't it? Let me see. Yeah, it was 1-1 going into the third period, and then 2 goals in the same minute basically just kind of ended the game, and then there was an empty net, which, again, Utah going empty net, and then they scored on a power play after that. I mean, whatever, I guess. But Utah had 10 more shots than LA did. They had more hits than LA did. They lost the face-off percentage. But Utah, at one point in this game, they were winning the shot differential like 24-9 or something like that, and that was when it was a tied game. So Utah actually, in many ways, outplayed the Kings in this game. I think it's a bit of a misleading result. And Utah, again, they're on the verge of elimination here, so maybe they don't think they're going to make the playoffs at this point. They're likely not going to, but I think they still got something to play for when Winnipeg is coming into their place, and they're trying to just stave off elimination here. You're getting them as a home underdog, and Winnipeg's not in a good spot. Yeah, I'll take the Hockey Club again in that one. Yeah, I won't get fooled again. That's right. That's a song I know a little bit better, The Who, the classic rock. Vegas is at Calgary. This is an interesting one. Vegas has lost 2 games in a row against good opponents, Edmonton and Winnipeg, but they got shut out against Winnipeg, and a lot of times when you get shut out, you do bounce back from that. I think that loss to Edmonton in a return home spot, no less, might have hung them over a little bit into that game, and they just got drilled by Winnipeg. But now I think going out on the road might actually be more of a positive for Vegas there. But then again, Calgary, they're going to be a home underdog in this game, and Calgary is still fighting to make the playoffs. So I would not really want to fade Calgary in a spot like that. And Calgary's just staying at home after they returned home and they did not suffer a distraction. And they beat Anaheim anyway, even with Vegas up next. I think I might have been on Anaheim in that game. That might have been one of my losses. I don't remember. Maybe I wasn't. But Vegas laying quite a price here. Up from minus 160 to minus 161. 85% of tickets, 98% of the cash. So they are public, of course. They're the Vegas Knights. Probably paying a little bit too much of a price with them, though. Against a Calgary team, it's a little bit more desperate. So I would probably, when all that being said, maybe I would slightly lean to the Calgary side. I don't even know, man. NBA, we have a short card, so we can get this done quick. I'm going to be on the Atlanta Hawks +4, or you might want to wait on this, which I'll explain in a minute, because we may have an injured player theory spot coming into play here. But the Knicks are down from 4 to 3.5 here. 61% of tickets on them, 77% of the cash coming in on the Hawks. The Hawks are in more desperation mode here, man. The Knicks are almost locked into either the 3 or the 4 seed at this point. They're almost guaranteed to get one of those two spots, and maybe they would even prefer the 4 seed, because if they get the 4 seed, it means they avoid the Celtics earlier in the playoffs. Because if they're the 3 seed and they win, they're going to have to face the Celtics almost definitively. If the Celtics are the 2 and the Celtics beat the 7, which they should, then the Knicks don't want to have to face the Celtics, man. The Celtics have absolutely annihilated the Knicks as of late, so the Knicks do not want that. So I don't know. The Knicks are hanging on to the 3 spot right now. They have like a 2.5 game advantage over whoever. I forget who's in the 4 spot right now. I think it's Indiana. So the Knicks have a little bit less to play for here, and they're coming off that game against Cleveland, which, yeah, they kind of got blown out at Cleveland, but that was still Cleveland. It's a game you get up emotionally for. And the Knicks were winning that game at halftime, I'm pretty sure. They had a really good first half, and then they completely imploded in the second half. Now they have to go face Atlanta on the road. And after that, they got Phoenix, which I don't know if they're going to look that much ahead to Phoenix, although it is tomorrow. But then they do have Boston again, and then Detroit and Cleveland. So Atlanta is basically the lesser of all these teams they're going to have to face here. Atlanta coming off a couple of losses. I was on Dallas in that last game, and Dallas won and didn't cover for me, so isn't that great? Dallas blew like a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter, so you got to love that. But now, Hawks have lost 4 of their last 5 games. They're back home, but they only had a single-game trip to Dallas. They have 2 days off, so I think they are going to be focused. This is one of their biggest games left on the schedule, man. Probably the biggest, with the Knicks coming into their place, and the Hawks, they need the game more because they're still trying to host a play-in game here. And I believe, I don't know how it shakes out this way, but somehow I think Atlanta could actually steal the 6 spot. So I think it's just the amount of games they have left. It's technically still possible they can take the 6 spot away from, who is it? Is it Milwaukee? I don't even remember. Whoever it is, I think Atlanta does have the possibility of stealing the 6 seed still, but they're only like a game and a half up in the play-in spots right now, at least trying to play for hosting a play-in game. So the Hawks do have more to play for here. They're getting points at home. And then on top of all that, you might get Jalen Brunson back for the Knicks in this game. And he's been off for a while. And again, that's a reverse injured player spot. Like I always say, if you lose your star player, a lot of times you step up in that first game without him. And really, the Knicks actually stepped up in their second game without him. And I was on the Knicks in that game, actually. But then when he comes back, you have to get used to playing with him again. I mean, he's a star player. The line is going to adjust to him being back and probably over-adjust, especially because he has to work his way back in. So it might be not only a chemistry issue to some degree, but he might not play a full complement of minutes yet in that first game back either. So this might be that spot if Brunson is coming back. I'm not sure that he is. Let me look. I know he was questionable last I saw. Although even if he doesn't come back, I do still kind of like the Hawks here. He's still listed as questionable. If he does come back, I think that's going to be even better. So I don't know if you want to take the +4 now or wait, really. I mean, it depends. I think if Brunson is announced that he is playing, that line is going to go up, and you will get a better number on Atlanta. So I don't know, but again, the market read looks like it's on Atlanta, so I do like all that. So I'll just do it, and I'll just take the Hawks. whatever. And then there is some market movement on the Heat here, flipping them from a 2-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite. But they are public with 55% of tickets, it looks like, for whatever reason. 83% of the cash coming back in on the Bucks. I mean, both of these teams have something to play for. The Heat the Heat are guaranteed a playoff spot now, I believe. Guaranteed a play-in spot. But I think they could play their way into hosting a play-in game if they continue to win games. The Bucks, I think, are still trying to hang on. I think technically they could lose the 6th seed, but I think it's highly unlikely, actually. So I do think the Heat actually have more motivation in this game, so I would slightly lean that way. And you got to look at what this game, the personnel could change a lot. Like, Giannis is listed as questionable for the Bucks. We know Lillard isn't back yet. For the Heat, Tyler Hero is listed as questionable last I saw, so I don't know if he's coming back. It looks like Wiggins is still not coming back yet, so I don't know. So a lot of moving parts in this game, so I'm not going to do anything with it. Grizzlies, Pistons. Grizzlies up from 1 to 2.5. 85% of the cash coming in on them. 55% of tickets on the Pistons. So it looks like the public is on the Pistons. Cash coming in on Memphis. I do kind of agree with Memphis. They need the game more. Again, I mean, Detroit almost like pretty much locked into one of those, either the 5 or the 6 seed. I don't think they can really move much at this point out of that spot. Memphis is in a total cluster in the West. I think they're in like a 3-way tie right now in the West, and they are trying to avoid falling into those play-in spots. They did get that win against Miami, which I lost on because Memphis didn't cover. Thought it was a good spot for Memphis. I think this might be a decent spot for Memphis as well. Playing with more motivation here. And Detroit's returning home from a road trip, although it was kind of a short road trip. But nonetheless, it is still a road trip return where you might be a little bit distracted coming into this game. So I do lean to Memphis in that game. And then you got Mavs, Clippers. Clippers up from 7.5 to 8. 71% of tickets on the money coming in on the Mavs to the tune of 78%. This game, the previous game was a 12.5-point line, and the Clippers dominated. So you might say, well, this is a zigzag spot. Well, maybe, because Dallas will be the team that has the adjustments to make. The problem is that the line has dropped all the way from 12.5 to 8.5, and I believe that's because Dallas I actually don't know who it. I think it's because AD didn't play on Friday, and it looks like he's probably expected to play in this game. I think that's the primary thing going on here. Kawhi Leonard did play, which was yesterday, actually. So these teams are on a back-to-back. I think Kawhi Leonard played, and because he's old and he gets rested a lot, he might actually get rested in this game. And it looks like AD, who didn't play last night, might be available in this game. So I think that's the reason why the line is down from 12.5 to 8.5 this time. It is still a spot where Dallas might have the adjustments to make, so I wouldn't necessarily say that I don't lean to Dallas here. I probably still do. I'm just not sure that you're totally getting the line value on this. So even that being said, though, it is still a big line, and Dallas does have more to play for, as Dallas is in that cluster in the West there where they're still fighting to even make the playoffs, to make the play-in, and they're getting a boatload of points here, whereas the Clippers are definitely going to make the playoffs at this point. So Dallas still getting a lot of points and has more to play for. So I do actually probably still lean that way. Thank you, Jameson. Yeah, that's right. Thanks for doubling my viewership, man. We're up from 1 to 2, baby. We've had a few other ones in, but people don't like to listen to me rant for like an hour. Let's get this done. We got Major League Baseball, but you know me and my baseball autism here. I'm going to try to run through these games fast. Let's go, man. I lean to the under in the White Sox in Detroit. Reese Olson has dominant numbers against the White Sox, which is not surprising. He's held them to an 0.62 average and 32 at-bats. They only have 2 hits off of them and a 185 OPS. So Olson has absolutely dominated these guys. I mean, these are not good hitters. On the other side, Davis Martin is a young guy who we don't know what we're going to get out of him, and that's kind of my concern, although he does have 36 at-bats worth against Detroit. And their hitters haven't done well. 222 average, 485 OPS. So I do like the idea of the under in that game. It was a fairly high-scoring game yesterday, I believe, but the bullpen usage wasn't really that high. So I lean to the under in that one. But Martin, I still don't know what you're going to get out of this guy, man. I mean, he's not that young anymore, and we still don't really know who he is. So I am a little bit concerned about that. And the money, I see some kind of conflicting reads in the market here as the line has moved up from 7.5 juice to the under to straight 7.5. But 60% of the tickets and only 56% of the cash are on the over. So I lean to the under there. Next game up, I am going to play on a total here, and I'm going to go on the over in Houston, Minnesota. I think this is a very misleading over here. Like, this looks like it's a good pitching matchup. These are two pitchers that I like usually with Arrighetti and Bailey Ober. I kind of like to play on them in a lot of cases, but I think because they are decent pitchers, I think maybe you're getting a little bit of line value here, and because Houston has played a lot of low-scoring games. But I think this is a spot to go with the over, even if yesterday, again, was not that high-scoring a game. Well, yesterday, the bullpen usage wasn't that high yesterday, but I still think the over is the right way to look in this game because of the matchups, and I'll show that in a second. But the game, landed 7 yesterday, so again, a low-scoring game that might give us a little bit extra value on this line as well. I know 7 is a key number. 7 is how you break the 3-3 tie, so ideally, you want to go over 7 rather than 7.5 here, but I don't think it was ever at 7.5. The line is moving up, by the way, from 7.5 to 7.5, juice to the over. 85% of tickets, 98% of the cash coming in the over. I don't know that the public is really looking at this game and coming in and taking the over here. Bailey over, let's call him, if this game comes through. Although that's not really a good name for him because he is a good pitcher, but he sucks early in. And I'm going through puberty here as my voice cracks. Bailey Ober actually is not good early in seasons, man. And Arrighetti actually struggled early in the season last year as well, but I think that's because he's young and he's getting used to playing in the majors. So he really started playing better later in the season. He is a good pitcher, but again, in this matchup, I don't like it. Let's look at the numbers here. Arrighetti, I mean, he had a nice first start of the season, giving up 1 run against the Mets. Nice 1-hit, 6-inning performance there. I think he might regress a little bit coming into this game, and we have a small sample size of 15 at-bats, but even so, the Twins hitters have a 400 average off him and an 871 OPS. So Minnesota's hitters are familiar with him enough that they've seen him before, and they hit him well even when they weren't familiar with him. So that looks like Arrighetti might struggle a little bit more in this game. And then Bailey Ober, I mean, his numbers are terrible. He's coming off a horrific first start, giving up 8 runs, putting 11 men on base through the walk and the hits in 2 2/3. Terrible. So he's not going to be that bad again in this game. But again, he struggles early in games. He's way too, or early in seasons. I mean, for some reason, he's way too hittable early on. Even though I think he is a good pitcher, and he's crazy tall, by the way, 6'9", so he has a dominant mound presence out there. But so I like him overall as a pitcher, but I don't like him in this matchup. I don't like him early in the season, even though I do think he should bounce back a little bit from that game. Against the Astros hitters, we have 32 at-bats worth, and he's been very hittable against them, allowing a 344 average, 5 home runs to them, although most of it is Altuve and Alvarez. 1,207 OPS, though, so I think this total's a little bit too low, so I'm going to go over. I mean, this total is basically a total that you should get when you have a really good pitching matchup or extremely weak offenses. And while I don't think these offenses are really that great, I think there's not a lot of wiggle room in that total for that thing to land under. And with both pitchers having really bad numbers against the opposing hitters, we're going to go over in that one. Nick Pivetta against Matthew Boyd. This game looks kind of like an under to me. I'm not going to play it. Pivetta coming off an excellent 1-hit, 7-inning performance against a Braves team that's really started out the season struggling. Pivetta, former Red Sox hitter, although problem I have with this is that he actually gets hit by the Cubs to the tune of 283 with an 851 OPS. So that does worry me a little bit with Pivetta there. And Matthew Boyd, he's old. I just don't think you know what you're going to get out of Boyd, because Boyd has had pretty bad stats throughout his career, and then all of a sudden last year, in 8 starts with Cleveland, he actually did well, which I don't really know if he can continue doing that. So I don't trust Boyd either, even though I believe the Padres, they don't really have a whole lot of experience against him. He's held them to a 209 average, 576 OPS. So I'm just going to stay away from that game. What else we got? I am going to go with an under. Of course, you know me. I'm going to have some unders somewhere here. And it's going to be in a game where, with 2 teams that are perceived as very good offensive teams, and they are. Dodgers-Philly. I mean, what public bettor is going to look at Dodgers-Philly and be like, oh, I want to take the under in this game? Nobody's going to do that, but I'm going to do it. And it's because of the pitching matchup. This game is in one of the later afternoon games on FS1. Probably after we already lose the over in the first game. Actually, that's not possible because the game would still be going on, so we'd still have a chance. Dodgers-Philadelphia, I mean, both of these teams are pretty good lineups. They both can hit. But looking at this game, I mean, the Dodgers have not been playing a lot of high-scoring games, man. It's early in the season. It's in Philadelphia, so it's probably not going to be a very warm game there at the very least, which can kind of keep hitting down a little bit. Both teams last night only had 5 hits, man, so there was not a lot of hitting going on. This was a shutout game into the 7th inning, so these lineups, they can be held down depending on the pitchers that they're facing. And Yamamoto and Luzardo both did well last night. There wasn't a whole lot of bullpen usage last night. Ruiz would probably be available again, really, if they wanted him to. He only threw 3 pitches last night for the Phillies, so not a ton of bullpen usage there. So I like that as well. LA's bullpen is good anyway. And in this game, again, I think we're getting a total that might be a little bit too high because we got Roki Sasaki pitching for the Dodgers. He's new to the MLB. He's a young guy, and yeah, he struggled so far. He had a bad start in his first start, or actually his first start was bad because he walked too many guys. That's the whole thing. His walks have been awful so far, but other than that, I don't think he's really been that bad. Other than that, he's got to get those walk numbers down. It's really just been a control issue, and that is something that is fixable. So Sasaki, I mean, I think he's going to get better. I think he's had some nerves so far. We don't know how long he's going to go in this game, which does worry me a little bit, but the Dodgers' bullpen is good, so that worries me a little bit less. And again, we're looking at the fact that the Phillies have never seen Sasaki before. So I think Sasaki should have a little bit of an edge there because he is a pitcher that has good stuff. And these hitters have never seen him before. So I'm going to bank on us not getting killed here early on with him in there. Hopefully he holds Philadelphia to just a couple of runs there. And then on the other side, I mean, you got Aaron Nola pitching. He has a terrible ERA to start the season because he gave up 5 runs against Washington. That doesn't look good. He gave up 2 home runs, but he had an 8-0 strikeout walk ratio in that game. So Nola, that tells me he was still pitching well. He was fooling hitters, man. He just got hit at very inopportune times in that game. Those home runs just came at bad times. I think he got a bit unlucky in that game. His whip is pretty good after that one game, even still. But you know who Nola is, man. I mean, he's good, and he's actually from Louisiana, even though he was born in Louisiana, even though he wasn't born in NOLA. He was born in Baton Rouge, but still, kind of ridiculous that that's his name. We live in a simulation, man. But Nola is a good pitcher, and I think maybe we're getting extra value on the under because people don't trust Sasaki right now, or they don't know who he is, and because Nola had a bad start on the surface, it looks like a bad start in his first start. And the Dodgers have had plenty of plate appearances against him, but he's done really well against him. In 212 at-bats, he's held him to a 198 average and a 595 OPS. So Nola has actually done well against these hitters. So that's a contrarian play right there, man. We're going to go under in that Dodgers-Philly game there, under the 8.5. I found it at minus 105. What does the market look like on that? Let me see. Where are we looking here? The line actually has gone up a little bit from 8.5 to 8.5 juice to the over, which I think is why I found reduced juice on the under. But 84% of tickets are on the over. Public coming in on the over in that one. That might be more of one of the public overs that we see here. But 60% of the cash is on the under. So that is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be where the cash percentage is. I'm going under. And then I have another total, and this one is going to be an over. I actually have 2 overs. But again, you want to go over a lot of times when it's a higher total because it's a higher total for a reason, man. But basically with any sport, you tend to want to look to go over the higher totals because the odds makers know what they're doing. They're telling you, we think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And I know I lost on that over on that Phillies-Rockies game the other day. I mean, that was ridiculous, man. There were 19 hits in that game and only 4 runs were scored. That is not something you usually see. And I can tell you there were a lot of professional bettors on that over, which I know from listening to professional bettors that follow what's going on and they have the inside scoop. But also I know that total was up to like 10, maybe 10.5 by the time the game went off. But I'm going to go over here, over the 9.5 in Yankees in Pittsburgh. And this one kind of seems square. Like any over with the Yankees seems square. I mean, they're the Yankees. They have one of the top offenses in the league. They use the torpedo bats, but I just think it's the right side here. The total is skyrocketing from 9 juice to the under all the way up to 9.5 juice heavily to the over. So you're probably looking at a 10 now. Yep, there it is. It just went to 10. I found 9.5 with reduced juice a little while ago, so I do think I'm on the right side here. I think this is a side where public and professionals are all just on the over in this one, and I don't think they're wrong. because the books keep having to adjust this thing. 93% of tickets, 98% of the cash coming in. And I know yesterday's game was a high-scoring game as well. The bullpen usage wasn't that high in that game. But, I mean, I just think this is the right side here. You look at the starting pitching matchup. Marcus Stroman is pitching for the Yankees. He's not the greatest pitcher. He's a short guy, man, 5'7". Not a guy that's going to intimidate you out there on the mound, even though he does throw pretty hard. But he's coming off a not great performance against Milwaukee, even though he had a ton of run support behind him. But that's what we're looking for here playing the over. We're looking at a not good start with a lot of run support going the other way. He gave up 3 earned runs in 4 2/3. Not a great performance out of him, so his ERA is not great. But against Pittsburgh, we have 80 at-bats to work with here with the sample size. 12-6 strikeout walk ratio is not good, although Pham has 4 of the walks there. But still, his numbers are bad in a pretty good-sized sample against Pittsburgh. 338 batting average against him and 809 OPS. So Stroman has not done well against Pittsburgh. Then on the other side, we're expecting Bailey Falter to falter here. He did well in his first start, but it was against Miami, and Miami sucks. So I'm not going to put that much stock into that. Falter, I mean, he's not the worst pitcher, but he's not as good as he was against Miami. I think we're going to get a little bit of regression this time out. He's facing the torpedo bats now, man. And the Yankees in 27 at-bats worth have 11 hits off of him, including 2 home runs and 11 RBIs. Ridiculous. They have a 407 average off him and 1,152 OPS. So it looks like we're going to get some runs in that game. I'm going over in that one. We're in a simulation. Yeah, I don't know who the admin is. You got to try to find the admin, though. I don't know, man. Some people do. Only the most insane people want to listen to my albums. Down, yeah, I know Down. They got, what's his face? The dude from Pantera, right? I saw Down live at Ozfest 2002, I want to say. They were like I think they were the last band on the second stage there. Yeah, 5'7" is crazy short. He's like the Muggsy Bogues. He's Muggsy Boguesman, Muggsy Stroman, Marcus Boguesman. Yeah, over. I mean, it seems square. That's one that the public is going to agree with me on, but whatever. I do think over is correct in that one. And yeah, Down. Yeah, I mean, I can get down with some Down. I mean, they're not bad. They had that Ghosts Along the Mississippi or whatever that one song they had way back then. I remember that song. All right, let's see. They're kind of more like what? What would you say? They're like kind of southern, like sludge metal almost. Yeah, not bad. All right, let's. What else do we got going on here? St. Louis and my Boston Red Sox. You got Andre Pallante pitching for St. Louis. The Red Sox won yesterday. I think there was a lot of bullpen usage in yesterday's game both ways. Pallante, only a 12 at-bat sample size, although it hasn't been good against the Red Sox. 333 average, 1,050 OPS. And I don't really understand. Pallante seems to continually get respect from like professional bettors, and I just don't understand it. Like, he has not done anything so far that makes me believe that he's actually that good of a pitcher. I mean, I know he's young. Like, maybe we think he has good stuff, but his career stats are awful so far with a 1.40 whip. Last year was 1.3, which would indicate that his ERA should have been higher than it was. So I don't understand it. His walk numbers are bad. Not a big strikeout pitcher. So I don't get it. So I do not like Pallante. And the Red Sox have Dick Fitz pitching here. The Dick might fit in this game. Richard Fitz. I mean, he is a wide dick, all right? So I don't know where the dick would fit in this case, but he's 6'3", 230, so he's a bit of a wide motherfucker. Against St. Louis, obviously, Fitz made his Major League debut last year. He only has like 5 Major League starts, 6 starts, whatever it is. St. Louis has never seen him before, so I give the edge to Fitz in the starting pitching matchup there. The market looks like it's completely in disagreement with me on that, and I don't understand. Fitz up from -120 to -120, although, of course, the starting pitching matchup isn't everything. You don't want to overrate the starting pitching matchup, although it seems like a lot of times I do, although it is still a big component of it. But I'm so old school, man. I'm always looking at the starting pitching matchup. 66% of tickets on the Red Sox, only 50% of the cash, though. So it looks like the money is coming in on the St. Louis side. And again, I don't see why. Because the Red Sox have seen Pallante before. He's the pitcher that has worse stuff than Fitz does. Fitz has decent numbers so far. He looked good last year, too, so I don't get it. I mean, I would lean to the Red Sox in that game. Then we got a game where I'm going to play, let's get to my sides. I actually have 3 sides, and it just so happens they're all in the later baseball games. We're going to go Baltimore plus 102 here. I think we're getting a little bit of value here with Sugano pitching, who's another Japanese pitcher, although he's an older guy. He pitched a long time in the Japanese leagues, and now he's come over to the majors. He's going through that adjustment period, man. He had an okay start, and I lost on that game because there was no run support on his side in that game, which hopefully is not going to be the case here. I mean, the fact that he had 2 walks and 1 strikeout worries me a little bit. That's a bit of a red flag. Although I believe he left the game with some like soreness or tiredness or something, but he's ready to go in this game. It seems like he still went 4 innings, only allowing 2 earned runs. So, I mean, that's a start like that will keep your team in the game at the very least. And that's what we want with an underdog here like this. And Sugano, of course, you know what I'm going to say. He has the edge yet again, just like I was talking about with Fitz, where the Royals in this case have never seen him before. So, as I tend to say, when you have a starting pitcher who either has experience or has good stuff, he knows what he's doing, but the opposing hitters have never seen him before, they have to adjust. So the pitcher usually has a bit of an edge early on because the hitters don't know what to expect. Sugano, he doesn't have that much velocity anymore. He relies on his control and like breaking pitches and stuff, and that might fool hitters as well. So they have to get used to, like, what does this guy even throw? Like, this weird junk. So a lot of times with these guys that have these weird arsenals that come over from Japan, they actually do better early on in their careers because the hitters, get some game film on them and get used to them eventually, and they start to tail off a little bit more after that. Meanwhile, Michael Wacha's pitching. Everybody knows Wacha. I mean, he's got a 2.25 ERA. His start was actually almost exactly what Sugano's was, which is weird. He went 4 innings, and he had 4 walks and 2 strikeouts, so crazy. He was walking too many guys as well. Michael Wacha was walking people, go figure. I mean, he's been a good pitcher like throughout his career. People are going to look at the fact that he has a 2.25 ERA and the fact that they know who he is and they don't know who Sugano is at all and think that Wacha is the right side here. But I don't agree with that. And Baltimore does have experience against him. They faced him 107 at bats worth. And what I'm looking at is the OPS here because they've only hit 252 off him, which isn't that great. But they have 8 home runs off him, even though a lot of it is Mountcastle and Mullins crushing him. But they have an 856 OPS off of him, man. So this Baltimore lineup has done pretty well against Wacha. So I do think Baltimore has the edge there. As an underdog price there, I'm going to go with Baltimore. And again, this is a situation where these teams didn't use much of their bullpens yesterday. And Baltimore lost 8-2 yesterday. So I think it might be a little bit of a bounce back spot for the Orioles after that yesterday. And that was a bit misleading as that was a 3-2 game into the 8th inning when the Royals scored 8 more runs. So a little bit misleading there. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of bullpen usage, like kind of normal bullpen usage. So we'll go full game on that and we'll grab Baltimore to bounce back there in the full game. And then we do have, what else we got? Taj Bradley against Jacob deGrom. This one's going to be interesting. Tampa lost to Texas yesterday. Bradley's been a pretty decent pitcher, but Texas has seen him before. This is crazy that the longtime veteran deGrom actually has way less of a track record against these opposing hitters than Bradley does against the opposing hitters, which is insane. Bradley's a young guy, but the Rangers have seen him 44 at bats worth. They've actually done pretty decent. 772 OPS against him, only a 250 average, but still, they've kind of knocked him around a little bit. He's walked too many of them. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jacob deGrom, even though he's an old veteran at this point, he doesn't show any signs of stopping so far, man. He had a 5-inning shutout against my Red Sox. Again, when he has pitched, even though he's been dealing with injuries, he really has not trailed off so far as his numbers. He still continues to be really good. And the Rays only have 2 hitters who have ever seen him before, which is crazy. So most of the Rays lineup, and the Rays aren't a very good hitting lineup anyway, so most of them have not seen deGrom before. So I have to give the advantage to deGrom in that game. I'm not playing it, but Texas is kind of public. 84% of tickets, only 81% of the cash. You're having to lay a big price with them, up from -170 to -172, because the odds makers know Texas has a way better offense than Tampa does. Tampa does have the better bullpen. Tampa has a good bullpen, but Texas does have the edge in the starting pitching. Although I think deGrom, you're paying a tax for deGrom, though. That's kind of the problem because everybody knows who he is, and they know he's probably going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher, and nobody really knows who Bradley is. So that's kind of the issue I have with it. But I do think DeGrom does have the edge in that one. And then we got Chris Bassett and Griffin Canning. And Bassett has been decent for Toronto. Griffin Canning, I talk about him on my show as he's been an absolute disaster throughout his career. But both of these pitchers actually have good numbers against the opposing lineup. So I actually lean to the under in that game, but I don't want to come in and try to put any money on Griffin Canning to actually pitch well, so I'm not going to do it. It's down from 8 to 7.5 juice to the over. It's 69% of the tickets, 79% of the cash on the over. I'm not going to come in and try to do anything with that game. Brady Singer with his new digs there. They're not playing in Cincinnati. They're playing in Milwaukee, but he's on a new team this year at Cincinnati. Pitched well in his first game against Elvin Rodriguez, who's a guy who we don't really know that much about. But Rodriguez, I think, in a very short sample size, small sample size, has bad numbers against Cincinnati. So you would think that that Singer would have the advantage in that game. But the money seems like it's coming in on Elvin Rodriguez. Does that mean he has pointy ears? I don't know. Up from -105 to -112, 58% of the cash on Milwaukee, 67% of the tickets coming in on Cincinnati. So Cincinnati is public, even though Milwaukee, I think, has won the first game or two of the series as well. I don't understand how the public is coming in on Cincinnati, or maybe it's just because they know Singer and they don't know who Rodriguez is. But I don't really agree with this move. I would lean to taking Singer as the underdog as well there. I think Cincinnati might be a bit of an undervalued team right now. Everybody knows Milwaukee went to the playoffs last year and whatever. Let's go to my second to last player, and I'm going to lay a big run line on this with the Atlanta Braves. I mean, the Braves have been the laughing stock, and we're looking at this. They finally won a game, but they're 1-7, yet they're a -255 underdog against a 4-4 team, although maybe the public won't be totally misled by this because they know that the Braves are they probably know that the Braves are still better than Miami is. But you're looking at a team that's a massive favorite that only has one win on the season. Marlins have 4 wins on the season. The Marlins, by the way, 0-1 on the road because guess who that one loss was to? Oh, yeah, it was to the Braves last night. And the Braves finally return home. They're 1-0. The Braves, I mean, they're not as bad as they looked in those first games, man. I mean, San Diego and the Dodgers to start the season on the road, that's not easy. So I would actually say that there's that historical thing out there where teams that start 0-7 never make the playoffs. But before that first Braves win, you could get the Braves at I think plus 250 to make the playoffs. So that bet actually seemed kind of decent because I think if any 0-7 team is going to do it, maybe it would be the Braves, although I know they just lost Profar, one of their best hitters. His first year with the team, he gets suspended for half the season for performance-enhancing drugs, so that's great. But in this spot, I like Atlanta, man. I mean, Atlanta's the better team, and they won easily last night, but I think what that's going to do is that's going to give them enough confidence back to move forward. That's a momentum starter, and it kills their losing momentum there. So I like that. The fact that they ended their loss streak finally, get that monkey off their back, basically get a win, just move on from that. I think they can kind of breathe a sigh of relief after getting that win and just start playing baseball. Meanwhile, Miami, I mean, they're not that good, obviously. They're Miami. So I think Atlanta is the right side here. Well, what else can I say? Looking at this game last night, not a ton of bullpen usage either way, although the Braves actually still use less of their bullpen because Schwellenbach had a dominant performance last night. He's a really, really good pitcher. Max Meyer actually wasn't that bad yesterday either, so the bullpen actually got destroyed. So you got kind of a tough beat if you had the under in this game, man. The game was 3-0 late in the game. And then, fairly late in the game, or 5-0, I guess. And then you had Arias give up a ton of runs at the end. But anyway, I think you got advantages all around for Atlanta, man. I mean, they still have the better offense. They got the better starting pitcher, in my opinion, in this game, even still. I think maybe the public won't be on the Braves that heavily because they don't know who this pitcher is. And Atlanta, I mean, they probably have the better bullpen still over Miami, too. I mean, this Miami team's not good. Cal Quantrill's pitching for Miami, so at least maybe he's probably thankful he's out of Colorado, but he still has not done well to start the season, man. Giving up 6 earned runs on 8 hits against the Mets. Way too hittable yet again. Quantrill, not a great pitcher, and against the Braves, it hasn't been good either. In 29 at-bats, where he has 4 walks against them, 4 hits. 379 average, 972 OPS. So this Braves lineup has done well against him. And then on the other side, Smith Shawver is pitching for the Braves. He's one of their young arms there in their staff. They're only 22 years old. His start was kind of a mixed bag in his first start against San Diego, which is more of a pitcher-friendly park, but he was serviceable enough that he got through 4 innings, allowing 2 earned runs. He's going to have to get those walk numbers down, man. That's really the main issue here. 3 walks. He's going to have to get that down. He does have 2 other seasons under his belt. He only made 1 start last year. He pitched 5 starts the year before that, and his whip in those 2 seasons was 1.11 and 1.15, so he's not really that bad, I don't think. Really, the issue is that he's got to get the walks down, man. And again, I think that's something where these young guys, they have good stuff. They just have to kind of rein in their control problems a little bit, and that is something you could fix. So I like all that. And then, of course, this Marlins lineup, which isn't that good to begin with, has never seen Smith-Shawver before. So we're going to go with the Braves for all those reasons. I do think they have the momentum now. I think they have every advantage in this game. A.J. Smith-Shawver, it's going to be the play. I mean, and it's kind of a misleading line just based on the team's records, where you have this Braves team that's basically been the team everybody's laughing at so far, and yet they're a huge favorite here because they are the way better team. I'm going to lay the run line just because the price is better, and I know I'm going to be really mad if they win by 1. I hate doing this a lot of the times because if they're winning, they're not going to get that extra bottom of the 9th to try to pad the lead. But I still like it. I think it's a mismatch. We'll lay the -1.5 runs at -110. It's just like playing the spread. You can lay the -1 run line, but you're probably going to have to pay about -160 for it. So I just think this price is the better option. I'm just going to do it. So that's that play. And then we're going to finish this off with, well, I will say I lean to the under in Seattle, San Francisco. Bryce Miller has been a pretty good pitcher for Seattle. He had a bad start to start the season, although he only gave up 3 earned runs in that game against the A's. It's just that he gave up a home run, 2 walks. I mean, not a great start for him, but he's been pretty good overall for Seattle. And the Giants basically have never seen him before. They're only 1 for 5 off of him lifetime with 2 strikeouts and no walks. So Miller probably does have an edge in that game. And then on the other side, Robbie Ray, who I don't really trust him, even though his ERA this year, 5.06, isn't really indicative of how he pitched in that game because he gave up 2 home runs in that game in a home run conducive ballpark there at Cincinnati. But he did have a 4.1 strikeout walk ratio there. So for Robbie Ray, I think he was better than his ERA would look in that game, but I still don't trust Robbie Ray because he kind of came from out of nowhere and had a pretty good whip last year, even though his ERA wasn't that good. I mean, his numbers, he's been kind of all over the place. He's had good seasons and bad seasons. He's kind of a schizo pitcher, to be honest, and overall his numbers aren't that great with a 1.30 whip, so I don't know if I trust him, but against Seattle, in 62 at-bats, where he's held to a 161 average. I mean, Seattle's offense is not that good, and a 461 OPS. So the way that I would play this is I would go under in the first 5 innings in that game because I don't want to get the bullpens involved in that one because the bullpens were heavily used last night in an extra innings game. So the bullpens are completely unrested in that game. So I would go under in the first 5 innings in that one. 56% of the tickets and only 51% of the cash on the under. I'm not going to play that one. Or on the over, excuse me. So the less of the cash on the over. So some market indicators on the under, even though the line has moved like slightly up with less juice on the under the 7.5 there. If you want to play the under first 5 innings, you probably have to do under 4 at about -120 there. Get that a little bit of that extra half run there and pay a little bit for it. Because otherwise you could probably get under 3.5 at reduced juice, which is a little bit more risky to be honest. So probably under 4 -120. Or whatever it is would be the way I would play that. And then we'll finish it off with my other play where I'm going to go to the same series I won on last night and go to the other side of it. I'm going to play on Anaheim in this game. And I know it means I'm fading Cleveland's ace with Tanner Bibby or Bibby there. But I'm going to do it. Cleveland, they won last night. They won for me last night. Jose Ramirez just totally unleashed last night and had 3 home runs. So basically all this damage was being done by one guy on Cleveland. Oh, and by the way, Anaheim might be a little bit under the radar because Mike Trout is actually there, and he's got 2 home runs so far this year. He hit one last night. So Mike Trout is actually there for now. So he's actually there. But look at what happened last night, man. Gavin Williams was out of the game pretty early. Soriano actually went deeper into the game, even though he didn't do well. But that saved the Angels' bullpen. They only used 3 guys out of their bullpen, including Detmers, who is kind of a long relief type of guy. But then Dana went 56 innings to basically, or 56 pitches, 56 innings would be insane, 56 pitches to save their bullpen, whereas Cleveland used some of their best relievers in this game, including their closer, who wound up giving up some runs in the game as well. They used 6 relief pitchers, and used them for 120-something pitches worth. So actually, so they used their relief staff way more. So I think Cleveland is at a pretty big disadvantage here because even though their bullpen is probably going to improve, it hasn't been good to start the season. It was a lot better last year. So they are probably going to improve because a lot of those guys are still there. So I expect their bullpen to be better, but their bullpen is completely unrested coming into this game after last night, man. So LA actually has the more rested bullpen here. And then you might think, well, my first reaction to this was maybe I want to look towards the under, but I really wouldn't want to do that with Cleveland having a completely unrested pen. I'm looking at this, and yeah, Tanner Bibby, I mean, he's off to another good start. 5 2/3 a shutout ball in his first start against Kansas City. Pretty good, although he had 2.2 strikeout walk ratio, which isn't that great. He's a good pitcher, but then I go over to his performance against the Anaheim Angels. 53 at bats worth. He does have a 12-1 strikeout walk ratio against him, which is good, but the Angels have hit him decently. 283 average against and 730 OPS. So, I mean, it's not quite at that 750 Mendoza line there where you can say that the hitters really do well against him, but they're familiar with him and they've done pretty well against him. So I think Bibby might be a little bit overrated coming into this one. And I think we might be getting value on Jack Kohanowitz, who's a guy that I've talked about on this show since last season. I mean, he's a looming presence on the mound as well at 6'7". Pretty intimidating presence there. He made his Major League debut last year and actually made 11 starts, and I think he went completely under the radar. Definitely not a strikeout guy. His strikeout numbers were not up there at all. He doesn't strike guys out, but he had a 1.19 whip last year and an ERA of sub-4, which is pretty good. And he's off to another good start this year. He went 6 innings, only threw 64 pitches, man. So whatever he's doing, and he did have 4 strikeouts in that game too, which is more than what you would expect from him. But whatever he's doing, he's going out there and fooling hitters, man. And he's being really efficient with his pitches. The fact that he only threw 64 pitches in 6 innings, that is a very efficient performance there. So I like that as well. And people don't know who he is, and I think he's flying under the radar. In Cleveland, only Carlos Santana, the old guy, I'm shocked that he's still in the league, has ever seen him before. And yes, he's 1 for 2 off him with a walk. But other than that, Cleveland's lineup has essentially never seen Kohanowitz before. So I think Kohanowitz does have a little bit of an edge here. We're getting the more rested bullpen. We're getting Anaheim in kind of a bounce-back spot here in this one. Is last night I played against them, I think because it was kind of their return home spot, and because Cleveland was already used to being out there on the Pacific Coast. I think it's different this time. Cleveland's up from -143 to -151 now, so you can get a decent underdog price on LA here, or on Anaheim. Excuse me, 86% of tickets, only 78% of cash, so Cleveland is public here. Anaheim, again, I think they're flying under the radar right now because they've sucked the last couple of years, but as of right now, I mean, at least Mike Trout is there. So again, I mean, I'm not going to say they're the better hitting team, but Cleveland has lost some of their best hitters from last year. Like I think Josh Naylor and one of their other good hitters, I think, are both gone after last year. So I think this game is a lot more even than what people think, and I think you're paying a tax for Tanner Bibby in this game, even though he might not even have the edge in the starting pitching matchup here. So that's going to do it for me. A lot of plays, a lot of stuff to talk about, hour-and-a-half video. Once again, all my plays today, both Final Four games, Auburn +2.5, Houston +5. Hockey, we got Columbus Blue Jackets, split bet +1.5 on the puck line at -145, and the money line with the other half of the bet +170. Utah Hockey Club, the HC, +120. Atlanta Hawks +4, or whatever you can get on that. MLB, 3 totals over in Houston, Minnesota, over the 7.5. Yankees Pitt over 9.5. Yankees in Pittsburgh, under 8.5 in LA, Dodgers, and Philly. And then the sides, the Atlanta Braves -1.5 on the run line. Anaheim Angels +130 and Baltimore +102. That's going to do it. Tower Getting Toad on Twitter. Let's actually have some wins for once. The only day that I've won so far has been my birthday. I mean, it's been a slow start to this month, although at least I feel like I'm kind of back to some regularity where my losses this month have been small. So it's kind of like I'm just kind of Yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit regular there. We just got to pick it back up here, but we got to somehow redeem ourselves from last month, man. I'm sorry about that. That was the worst month that I've ever had in March, so let's get it going again. April has been basically a wash so far, even though my birthday was really good on the 2nd. So let's keep going. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter, patreon.com/Tower Gang to support the most offensive podcast. That's going to do it. That's right, Charles. Thanks to everybody for hanging out. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a redemption arc. I had 2 really good years prior to last year, and then last year was a bit of a loser. So the only really good stuff you guys got from me on this channel was at the end of 2023. The last half of 2023, you got some really good stuff on me then. Last year was basically just treading water, and this year has been bad. So we got to turn it around. D syndrome, or just called syndrome. I don't know what we're talking. What are we talking about? Oh, Down. Yeah, Down should have a song called Syndrome. I get it. That is still the D syndrome. All right, Tower Gang, everybody, go follow that podcast. The most offensive podcast that you'll ever see. Let's have a good day today. Peace, guys.